So, Adrian, I have to ask you a hard question.
Okay.
How many holes does a straw have?
Two.
See, it doesn't, though.
Oh, it's 100% one.
It's 100%
It's
one
a
hole.
100%. It's just one long hole. Yeah.
I saw someone ask that question online the other day, and people were like literally going in a war about it because it was
Well,
like,
then how many does a T-shirt have?
well, a T-shirt would have three.
One. No. They all connect to the same.
Well, no, it's one hole in a straw, and you got one hole for each sleeve and one hole vertically for the head and the bottom
Oh, I guess if the sleeves don't line up.
because they're perpendicular. They're not parallel.
What about a tank top?
Tank top is just one because that's all just I don't know. We're getting
That's
into a
two.
tangent here. That's actually true in the cross pattern. I didn't think about that. Anyhow, welcome back to the Drive Back Podcast. My name is Garrett,
And I'm Adrian.
and today we got part 2 of our 2-episode series, examining some movie trivia from the past 100 episodes of the show. Last week we did episodes 1 through 49, and this week we are doing episodes 50 through 99. So, let's go ahead. We got a lot to get through. We got a couple more pages of notes than last week because we did a lot more franchises in our back 50.
Great.
So, we'll start this right away. The first episode, I think it was episode 50 or 51, was we did the Conjuring franchise. So let's go ahead and dive into those. For The Conjuring, the film was given an R rating by the MPAA. The filmmakers had thought the final cut had a chance of getting the more box office friendly PG-13 rating and asked the ratings board for clarification. The MPAA said that the film was so scary that there were no cuts or edits possible that would make it a viable PG-13 film, and the filmmakers did not want to alter the film's tone and accepted the R rating without any appeals.
I didn't realize it was R.
I didn't. I thought it was PG-13.
I did too. Yeah, that's actually really interesting because it feels like a PG-13 movie.
And I'm a fountain of useless movie information, and I didn't know that it was R.
Yeah,
I guess like we can verify I have it on Blu-ray.
I believe you.
Okay. Well, in that case, I believe me too. Next, for The Conjuring 2, star Patrick Wilson did his own singing.
For which part?
In Conjuring 2, which I don't remember which part he sung in.
Yeah.
But he did, apparently. Next up, Annabelle, the first Annabelle movie, which was probably... It was second of the three. It wasn't very good, but... the director, John R. Leonetti, it's his first theatrically released film since Mortal Kombat Annihilation, 17 years prior to the film.
Wow, and quite a change of pace as well.
I mean, the quality stayed... Well, quality got a little bit better.
Arguably, it went the other way. I think Mortal Kombat Annihilation, obviously it's a terrible movie, but I would hold it in regard of being at least like nostalgic. I think Annabelle is like...
True. Next up is Annabelle Creation. It was associated with the controversial short horror movie contest in which Warner Brothers would legally own the contest winner's idea for 3 years and have the option to develop a feature film out of it,
That's cool.
while only being obligated to compensate the contestant with $100 and a chance to meet the director if available.
If available. That's such like a gimmick.
Like
I guess you get like the recognition, right, of winning the competition.
yeah, but like you put all that hard work and it's like, here's $100, and by the way, David Sandberg's not available.
Yeah, by the way,
okay.
you don't get to meet him. Great. Thanks. I'll go to dinner once.
Sounds very Warner Brothers-y. We'll say it that way. Next up, Annabelle Comes Home, which is, I would say, the worst of the three, probably.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. The Annabelle doll has made an appearance in 2 DC Comics movies, Aquaman and Shazam. In return, some DC comic books, like issues of The Demon and Swamp Thing, appear in this movie. Also of note is when Lorraine picks up the mourner's bracelet at the end, the cylindrical artifact standing next to it is the Atlantean holographic key from Aquaman.
Why is there such a DC crossover?
Well, James Wan directed The Conjuring 2, and Aquaman. And then David Sandberg, who directed Annabelle Creation, directed Shazam.
Okay, but so are they just trying to do like a Pixar thing, like pay
It's the
homage to all their?
DCEU. At this
Yeah.
point, I have no idea.
If so, I think Annabelle is the strongest hero or villain in the DCU.
This next fact kind of angered me and made me happy at the same time. This is about The Nun, which is still one of the worst movies I've ever seen, in my opinion. The
Totally.
Nun is the highest grossing film from the Conjuring universe and simultaneously is the lowest rated one.
Really?
Showing once again that movie audiences don't know what they want.
Wow.
Next up was one that you didn't like that I actually liked a little bit, which was Curse of La Llorona, which Samantha, which is one of the children in the movie, is seen watching a classic Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon, which is funny because Linda Cardellini, who plays her mother Anna, played Velma in the Scooby-Doo live-action movies.
I did know that. I didn't realize. I guess they just had it on, but that's so funny.
Yeah, and Hawkeye's married to Velma as well. So
Yeah.
there we go. Next up, we had a double feature we did with our friend Hannah. We did the movie 2012, the disaster movie, which it is quite a disaster. The great disasters of the Galactic Alignment in 2012, the big apocalyptic Mayan event, were supposed to have occurred on December 21st, which is the day of the solstice. The filmmakers decided to move those events up a few months to midsummer. The reason why was it relieved them of having to decorate the sets for the winter holidays.
Hey, you got to cut budgets at the end of the world.
Got it. Yeah, because you got to save money, when it's not going to matter anymore. Lawrence of Arabia, probably one of the highest rated movies we've done on the channel. So this one's actually really cool. So the first time that Peter O'Toole, who played Lawrence, tried riding a camel, blood oozed from his jeans. This is a very delicate Irish arse, he warned his instructor. He finally mastered his camel riding technique by adding a layer of sponge rubber underneath the saddle to ease his bruised backside. A practical innovation quickly adopted by the actual Bedouin tribesmen acting as extras during the location filming, and later O'Toole was nicknamed Ab al-Isfanja, I hope I'm saying that correctly, which means father of the sponge, by the Bedouin.
He totally fixed a problem that they had been having forever.
Exactly. And they gave him an awesome sounding name.
Wow.
Which Father
very
of the
cool.
Sponge also applies to Stephen Hillenburg, the guy who created SpongeBob.
Oh, nice.
I just
Congrats.
came up with that. I don't know. The Good, the Bad, the Weird was that Korean Western film that we watched, that I had submitted for us to watch. Director Ji-woon Kim says he'd like this to be called a kimchi Western, after the Korean food made with fermented cabbages. He says he
Delicious.
thinks the plot and film are spicy and vibrant like the Korean culture and people.
That makes perfect sense. Kimchi is delicious and fun.
So it's kind of similar to like spaghetti westerns, which are made in Italy, and then there's a term for Japanese westerns as well. I don't remember exactly what. Maybe I think it's sushi western or something like that.
That's a good name. Or pho.
But
Oh, no, it's Vietnamese. That wouldn't be Japanese. My bad. Sorry, everybody.
it's all good. As Above, So Below is next that you had recommended for us to watch. This was the first ever production that secured permission from the French government to film in the catacombs. The film utilizes a set of narrow, winding tunnels of the Paris catacombs, complete with real mint skeletons creepily arranged centuries ago.
Yep, I did know that. That's part of the reason why I like that movie, because they actually went there.
I also just love like the Dante's Inferno parallels and such too, which was just pretty great. Akira is next. That was kind of when we started changing the branding up for a lot of our episodes. At around 38 minutes into the film, when Colonel Shikishima is listening to Dr. Onishi's assessment concerning Kyoko's most recent dream, a caution note appears on the doctor's equipment, featuring the following English text beneath it. Doshite... I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. I don't want to butcher it. It's in Japanese. When transcribed into English, the text is actually a passive-aggressive message from the animator to the director, which roughly translates as follows: "Why do I even have to draw this part? Give me a break. Jeez."
Wow. I love when there's little Easter eggs like that people just can sneak in because they're working on the movie or the game or whatever.
See, like, that's fine, but when you put, like, a dick into a movie, like Little Mermaid, it's a little weird.
That one's a little rough, but I feel like in video games, I love when there's, like, a secret developer room that it'll say, like, for my daughter, or things like that, like, super secret rooms, or even, like things that are complete happenstance. You have to, like, do a super secret series of things, and then it does, like, there's, like, a picture of the development team. Or the set crew in like a hidden room or something. I think stuff like that's super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a really big one in the newest Horizon game because one of the lead developers passed away, so they did a memorial to him on top of one of the mountains.
I know that in Destiny they did one where a developer passed away, and there was a small little quest line, and then you basically got to go to. At the end, it was this back little room that was his cubicle, and it had like I guess he really liked whiskey, so it had a glass of whiskey and a note to him and like super personal, just thanking him for everything. And it was just like such a cool. I love when people pay homage like that. It's so nice.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Next up is Ready Player One. The team of pop culture experts that help Sorrento hunt for the holiday Easter egg are called oologists in the movie. Oology is an actual science that studies and collects bird eggs.
Fascinating.
Because they're looking for Easter eggs. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Next up, we took a look at one of the biggest franchises on the planet, Fast and Furious, which that was a fun episode after not having seen any of them and echoing a lot of the same critiques. The first movie was The Fast and the Furious. Neither Michelle Rodriguez nor Jordana Brewster had driver's licenses or even learner's permits before production of the film.
Wow.
So I feel like that would kind of be a required thing to have. For Too Fast, Too Furious, Universal Studios had two different scripts commissioned. The first script featured Vin Diesel's character, while the second script did not, in case he decided not to return.
Oh, interesting. So they were ready to not have him in there.
That sounds so rough. Yeah, can you write two versions of that script, by the way? One with Vin and one without Vin. You know,
I would imagine that they definitely... I mean... Especially for how big some movies get now, like I imagine there's definitely multiple Marvel scripts in case something happens. Yeah. Like actually, I know for a fact that there were multiple scripts for Black Panther 2 because they were concerned that Chadwick Boseman wouldn't make it, and he didn't, so they're going with a different script. So definitely a common practice in today's age. I think people are just way more all about reassuring that the movie can be made no matter what.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm sure there's probably the same thing for No Way Home if they couldn't get Garfield or if they couldn't get Maguire or both.
Totally. Yeah, I'm sure. Or then they would like cut the villain. They'd do all kinds of stuff. I'm sure there's so many different scripts.
I'm sure at that point, though, it's just how much money can we throw at these people to make sure they actually do it.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know, but I would imagine Tobey Maguire could have just gone 50 million. And they would have been like, sounds cheap. Let's do it.
Because this movie will make it back. Next up was Tokyo Drift. Did you know that Channing Tatum auditioned for the main role?
I did know that. I actually did. Yeah, I definitely did. Because I remember thinking about how like they basically got like Wish Channing Tatum instead. And like similar haircut. I could totally see the look at the time.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's crazy. But what else even more crazy is this Fast and Furious fact from the fourth one. Which is probably, I'd probably say it's the worst movie in the franchise.
Or actually, besides the newest one.
Yeah, it's true. Due to Universal Pictures moving the release date up from June 12th to April 3rd, composer Brian Tyler only had 3 days to record the orchestral score.
Wow.
Like, by the way, we're moving the release up. Okay, cool. When are you moving it up to? This date. I have how long?
Yeah, wow. Hey, props to him for pulling it out. Impressive.
Start wetting those woodwinds and rosining up those bows. We got to get going. So Fast 5, which was one of the more fun ones, actually, in the entire series. When the team steal the 4 Dodge Charger police cars to do a drag race, the police lights on one of the cars just turned on. According to car coordinator Dennis McCarthy, Dodge had just released that particular model of the Charger, and as a result, some of the cars used were still prototypes. The police lights activating was a malfunction on that particular car and wasn't in the script. After filming, they decided to keep the scene intact because they thought it was something that Roman, Tyrese Gibson's character, would have done anyway.
Totally. That 100% fits character. Just he would absolutely flip on the lights.
Following that was Fast and Furious 6. Originally conceived as 2 movies, the first ending with the conclusion of the tank scene, and the second ending with the plane.
Interesting. I'm glad they didn't do that.
It's a lot to throw into one movie, but
I think it fits as better as one whole story. I don't think they needed to split them out yet.
Fair, but they do kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because if you have one climactic scene every movie, and this one had 2, how are you supposed to one up on the next? You know what I mean?
That's true.
Next up was Furious 7, which said that this is the first film in the series to feature an Oscar-nominated actor. Djimon Hounsou has been nominated twice, both for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for In America and Blood Diamond.
Wow.
So they finally got some clout with the 7th movie.
Yeah, I think this is where it really started to just pull in any famous actor that they could find. This is when it really started to be and this person's in this movie, and this person.
Well, it's the newest one has, who does it have now? Jason Momoa, Brie Larson, who else is in 10? It's been announced.
Oh, I mean, all the original people, John Cena, Vin Diesel. The Rock has not been confirmed, but Vin Diesel really wants The Rock to be in it.
They're going to bring dead actors in. It's just going to be weird. Rounding out the franchise, is Fate of the Furious. The character played by Scott Eastwood is never named. Eastwood's father, Clint Eastwood, is famous for playing the man with no name in Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy.
How fun.
Nice little nod there.
Yeah.
And I was lying, because next up is Hobbs and Shaw, which is still part of the same franchise.
Yep.
When Hobbs and the Shaws are reconnoitering before heading to Moscow, Hobbs is referencing all of the cars pertaining to Deckard Shaw overcompensating. When he gets into a Mini Cooper, he says, "This is more like it." Shaw then claims he used it in a job in Italy. Jason Statham was a main character in The Italian Job, remake of The Italian Job from 1969, in which the heist featured Mini Coopers driving through a mansion.
Yeah, I did know that one. That one was a pretty overt reference, I felt. But if you hadn't seen it, then you might not know.
So next up we did, I think this was the double feature, we did Dante's Inferno, which was an animated anthology series based on the video game, or it was an animated movie anthology. And then we also did Jumper. Dante's Inferno has 2 facts about it on IMDb. So
really?
This is the most interesting fact I could find, which is that Graham McTavish and Vanessa Branch were the voices of Dante and Beatrice respectively in the video game, and also provided the voice of the characters in the film.
Oh, fun.
Cool. Great. There's no juicy tidbits at all. Jumper. Further proving that Hayden Christensen can act. The crew was allowed to film inside the Roman Colosseum for 3 days under 3 conditions. No equipment could be placed on the ground. They could only shoot from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. to avoid disturbing tourists, and the only lighting allowed was natural sunlight.
Wow, they really pulled that off, and that's cool that they actually got to go there. It's not just a set. That's really neat.
Right? Now you just do it with the volume, but it looks more better now when you do it in real life. Requiem for a Dream, the movie that everyone's glad they've seen but never wants to watch it again. At around 44 minutes into the movie, during Ellen Burstyn's impassioned monologue about how it feels to be old, cinematographer Matthew Libatic, I hope I'm saying that correctly, accidentally let the camera drift off target. When director Darren Aronofsky called cut and confronted him about it, he realized the reason that the cinematographer had let the camera drift was because he had been crying during the take and fogged up the camera's eyepiece. This was the take used in the final print.
Wow, because that means it was clearly such a good take.
Very similar to the camera shaking from Good Will Hunting we talked about last week, and they left that
Yeah.
Next up we did Dread, a vastly underrated movie that is so much fun to watch. In a recent interview recollecting on the movie, Carl Urban said he refused to smile or take the helmet off at any point during the movie's filming or even in between takes. He spoke with an American accent and kept a scowl the whole time and stayed serious to keep in character. At one point, a cast member made a joke causing laughter on the set, and Urban gave him the dread stare, prompting the person to immediately apologize. You know what's so funny is I just read a story to you about No Way Home where Andrew Garfield was talking in his Peter Parker voice on set the fact that Zendaya thought he was American the whole time until he just dropped the accent and went British.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Oh boy, moving on. We have another big franchise to get to, and that's Harry Potter.
Nice.
We got to go right ahead with the first film. J.K. Rowling revealed on her website that she was asked to play Harry's mother, Lily, during the Mirror of Erised scene, but she turned down the role, claiming that she is not an actress and would have messed it up somehow. So instead, it went to Geraldine Somerville.
Wow.
Couldn't have been worse than she messed up her own world. Chamber of Secrets. Lucius Malfoy was originally not supposed to have long hair. However, when Jason Isaacs was cast in the role, he requested the longer hair so he could be distinguished from his son Draco. In order to keep the hair from falling in front of his face, Isaacs had to keep his head tilted back, which further added to the snobbishness of the character, making him look down the bridge of his nose at everyone.
And he totally does, like in every scene, he's like up here looking around.
Yep.
Wow, that's
you
cool.
Must be a Weasley. Prisoner of Azkaban, third movie in the franchise. I would say it's probably the best movie in the franchise, personally. In order to acquaint himself with the three lead actors and actress, excuse me, I can't read today, director Alfonso Cuarón had each of them write an essay about their characters. From a first-person point of view, I might add. Emma Watson, in true Hermione fashion, went a little overboard and wrote a 16-page essay. Daniel Radcliffe, like Harry, wrote a simple one-page summary, and Rupert Grint, like Ron, never even turned one in.
I don't know why, but I absolutely thought you were going to say in order to get familiar, because of all the other facts like this, you were going to say he made them get naked in front of the entire crew.
He's like, hi, I'm the director. Just flashes immediately.
Yeah.
Wow, he asserted his dominance. Could you imagine they're still like under 18 at that point?
That's why I was like, where is this going?
There's some real weird stories coming out of Harry Potter. Fourth film was Goblet of Fire. Director Mike Newell was not aware that Alan Rickman wore black contact lenses for the role of Snape until one day when he was complimenting him on the amazing shade of his eyes. Rickman leaned over and popped one of the lenses out.
Fun. That's a great little inside story for him.
It's like, you ever see that meme of Bill Hader talking to Pennywise on the set of It Chapter 2? And he was like talking to Bill Skarsgård, and he's like, "Hey, I love that thing you do with your eyes," and they're like laughing about it. And he's like, "That's all CG, right?" And he actually like did the eye thing where he made him like move independently, and it freaked Bill out. In the next, that's just how I imagine it in my head. For Order of the Phoenix, the fifth movie, during filming, Alan Rickman banned Matthew Lewis and Rupert Grint from being within 5 meters of his new BMW because during the making of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, they spilled a milkshake in his car.
Oh, what?
This one angers me, and I'll get why. For The Half-Blood Prince, which was the sixth movie, it's the only Harry Potter movie to be Oscar nominated for the Best Cinematography Academy Award, and it is the worst-looking movie out of all of them.
Yeah, and I also feel like it is potentially the most boring. Like, it's all not good.
Yeah, but specifically, like, it's just brown. The entire movie is brown, and it is ugly. So, my one thing I'm mad at the Academy about. Also, not nominating Lego Movie for Best Animated Picture. Next up,
Don't
Deathly
even
Hallows.
get me started on Get Out. I still think that was just ridiculous that it swept like that.
It didn't.
I've had
it
that
was just
opinion
nominated for a bunch.
And I don't agree.
Well, it's okay to be wrong. Deathly Hallows Part 1. Over 500 wands were created for the movie. They were checked out and checked in before, during, and after the filming days completed. Many of them came back broken.
Wow.
It's just a thin rod of wood. Speaking of breaking wands, in the Deathly Hallows Part 2, over the entire course of the franchise, Daniel Radcliffe reportedly broke 80 wands because he used them as drumsticks.
I feel like I've heard that one. That one I think I knew.
Like, I would do that.
Yeah, you're just hanging out, like you're waiting on set for them to clean up and reshoot, you just drum around.
God, he's so good on drums. He's almost magical. Next up was the first Fantastic Beasts movie, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It was originally intended to be a trilogy, but as of October 2016, it has been confirmed to be part of a 5-part movie franchise. Don't know if that's true anymore after the latest movie didn't do well.
Oh, I think no, it still is. I think all the rest of the films are already in production.
Are they?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, the newest one was like super not well received, but
because of the whole Johnny Depp thing, I think. But
no, just the critic reception wasn't good to the movie either.
But yeah, at least from what I understand, they've already been in production for they kind of did the Lord of the Rings thing where they've been filming them all simultaneously.
Gotcha.
From what I know, yeah.
Next up was The Crimes of Grindelwald, which is the last movie we covered in the Harry Potter franchise. We didn't do Secrets of Dumbledore on the channel.
Nope.
But Crimes of Grindelwald, the early rumors on who would play the young Albus Dumbledore included Christian Bale, Benedict Cumberbatch, and then Jared Harris, who was the son of the late Richard Harris, who played Albus Dumbledore in the first 2 Harry Potter movies before he passed away.
Oh, interesting. I feel like that would have brought a lot of different vibe to the character. I think they chose pretty well.
Jude Law was a good choice, I thought.
Yeah.
Next up, we did John Carter, the infamous Disney flop. While filming at Big Water in Utah, the crew accidentally discovered a 60-foot-long sauropod dinosaur skeleton. The state's Land Management Bureau had to take over.
What? That's fun.
That's like all right, and action. Oh my god, that's a dinosaur.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I didn't know we were filming Jurassic World. Next up was Apocalypse Now, which was
great movie.
There's so many facts about this movie; it's insane.
It's one of those ones that you can analyze anything.
Well, just the fun facts from behind the making of the film. Like, there's an entire documentary called Hearts of Darkness.
Oh yeah,
the filmmaker's Apocalypse or something like that. Highly suggest if you've watched Apocalypse Now because of us, or if you've seen it, watch that documentary because it goes over a lot of this stuff. But while in pre-production, Francis Ford Coppola consulted his friend and mentor Roger Corman for advice about shooting in the Philippines. Corman's advice was, don't go.
Just don't do it.
And then he should have listened because they dealt with a typhoon and all these different outbreaks. Funny. Next up was the Grand Budapest Hotel. The scene in which Harvey Keitel's character Ludwig says, "Good luck, kid," before slapping Zero, which is Tony Revolori, across the face, was shot 42 times until Wes Anderson was satisfied. Keitel actually slapped Revolori each time.
Oh my gosh.
It's 42. Whap!
They probably kept having to do makeup so that it wouldn't show how red his face was getting.
Oh, easily. Next up, we did The Witch. I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers, so
great movie. Yeah,
love that movie. Stephen King, who is often called the master of horror, has stated he was terrified by this film. Now, I feel like that's a big compliment.
Yeah, that's huge. It's a great movie,
even though King's batting average isn't as high as people think it is. Next up, we did How to Train Your Dragon. At 3-peat. How to Train Your Dragon number 1. The hesitation Toothless shows during the famous touch scene was actually an animation error. However, it looked so perfect that the animators chose to leave it in the film.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Again, when a mistake is left in because it makes it look even better.
Yeah.
Number 2 was How to Train Your Dragon 2. Jaimin Hansu would often do vocal exercises to prepare for his voice acting. One of those was a loud, terrible scream. Dean DeBlois liked it so much that he decided to use it as Drago's cry to summon his dragons.
That's a cool little fact. That's good.
What I'm hearing is Jaimin Hansu should have been in a metal band.
Yeah. Guttural scream.
Exactly. It would have been brutal. Next up, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. It's DreamWorks Animation's first franchise in which each movie was distributed by a different film studio. Paramount distributed How to Train Your Dragon 1, 20th Century Fox distributed How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Universal Pictures distributed The Hidden World.
Interesting, so just kept changing hands. Huh.
DreamWorks has been through a lot.
Yeah.
Next up is Parasite. One of the
great movie.
Best movies of the 2000s so far. Bong Joon-ho was particularly happy with the Best Editing and Best Production Design Oscar nominations for the film, as he felt the great technicians and masters working in the Korean film industry were getting recognized for the first time. However, these were the only Oscars that the film were nominated for but didn't win. According to the editor, Jinmo Yang, he edited the entire film in Final Cut Pro 7, an editing program that Apple stopped supporting in 2011, on a computer that hasn't had a software update since 2014. And he was nominated for an Oscar for it. So, hey.
I'll just tell you, like, I know Benjamin Button was done on Final Cut 10, but it just shows that it's not the tools, it's the person doing it. You can make magic with nothing. It just depends on how good you are.
Exactly. Very important. Next up was The Lighthouse, another Robert Eggers film. The scene where Willem Dafoe's character gives the sea curse to Robert Pattinson's character because he doesn't like his cooked lobster was shot in one single take. According to director Robert Eggers, Dafoe didn't blink for over 2 minutes.
Whoa.
It's also just an incredible performance moment, too. That curse is... Oh, it's so good. Next up is La La Land. Jason Fuchs, the guy playing the obnoxious writer at the pool party, is actually a successful franchise writer. He's one of the people behind Ice Age 4, Continental Drift, and Wonder Woman.
Wow.
So...
Good for him.
Yeah, that's always nice to play an earlier version of yourself, I guess.
As long as you're in a better place now. I feel like it's rough to go the opposite way.
I haven't changed at all.
Like, you know which one I feel real rough watching? It's the TV show called Episodes, where it's Joey from Friends after Friends. And it's a show about, like, him trying to find work.
Oh, now. I remember that.
And it's just rough because it's, like, real. Like...
Is this a documentary?
Yeah, that's what it's like. It's making fun of itself, but it's also like, come on, Joey, like this isn't fun.
Next up was Real Steel, which is supposedly still getting a sequel, but we'll see.
Hell yeah, okay.
Yeah, Sean Levy's still attached, and I think they want. Well, obviously Hugh Jackman would come back, but they want to get Ryan Reynolds in on it too.
Why?
Sean Levy's he's really good friends with Ryan Reynolds now, and it would just be funny to watch Ryan Reynolds fight Hugh Jackman.
This is the decade of Ryan Reynolds. He is definitely a top star.
Oh yeah. At the beginning of the first fight in the movie, the one in the ranch, Ricky says, "Lay the smackdown," a typical catchphrase of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. A robot at the end of the movie is declared the People's Champion, one of The Rock's nicknames.
Oh, very fun.
Nice little call-outs there.
Yeah.
Next up was Push, the superpower movie with Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning.
Underrated.
The scene where Camilla Bell's character Kira is kidnapped in a crowded street at gunpoint was filmed with no visible crew around, and the camera being hidden in a van, yet no passers-by reacted.
So it was all extras, or people that weren't.
They weren't even tied to the movie. It was just on a crowded street in China, and someone
people just
kidnapped
let
at
it
gunpoint.
happen. People just let it happen.
Crazy white people, let them go. Pulp Fiction is next. One of the most famous, popular movies of the 1990s.
Yeah.
The movie cost only $8 million to make. The initial budget was reportedly even lower until Bruce Willis was added to the cast. He had a recent string of domestic flops, but was still a box office draw overseas. $5 million went to pay the actors and actresses' salaries, and the film was already profitable when its worldwide rights were sold for $11 million, again, mainly on the strength of Willis's presence. It then went on to gross over $200 million at the box office.
Woo-wee.
Gotta tell you, money's money.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Jupiter Ascending, I love it. So with Jupiter Ascending, I love it. Well, not this movie in particular, but I love when stars have similar ideas that we do, as viewers and as the audience, right?
I'm so interested in where you're going with this.
While doing a Q&A with fans on Reddit, one fan asked Channing Tatum what the movie was about. He responded, "Good question. I have the same one myself."
That's good. That's fun.
Love the subtle digs. Alrighty, next up we have the Lord of the Rings franchise. We did all 3 Lord of the Rings movies and all 3 Hobbit movies. For the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf's painful encounter with the ceiling beam in Bilbo's hobbit hole was not in the script. Sir Ian McKellen banged his forehead against the beam accidentally. Peter Jackson thought McKellen did a great job acting through the mistake and kept it in.
Well, that's fun.
It also just kind of funny to just go, oh, when he hits his head.
Yeah.
For the 2 towers, there were so many extras used in the sequences at Helm's Deep, and the filming went on for so many months, that almost all the extras and principal actors got t-shirts reading, "I survived Helm's Deep." There were so many of these shirts that extras would often meet each other, or meet other extras, in New Zealand's main cities because they would recognize the shirts.
That's fun.
Like, you were there too? Yeah! Next up, for it was the Return of the King, to get enough extras for the battle at the Black Gate, a few hundred members of the New Zealand army were brought in. They were apparently so enthusiastic during the battle scenes that they kept breaking the wooden swords and spears they were given.
Wow.
It's not, like, I would love to be, like, an extra in a battle scene. Like, that just sounds like so much fun.
Just go crazy.
The dream I'll never get now because of CGI. Thanks. Yeah. For the Hobbit movies, the first...
I also don't know if they would ever look at Lord of the Rings and go, you know who we need in this battle? Someone that looks like Adrian and Garrett.
Peter Jackson, this is an open call. Please put me in any projects coming up. For the Hobbit series, we had An Unexpected Journey was the first film. The elk that Thranduil, who was the Elven king, rides on, is played by a horse named Moose.
Aww. So many different animals.
Yeah, I know. I think it's just confused. The second movie, which was The Desolation of Smaug, Benedict Cumberbatch's suggested writing and reading the necromancer's black speech backwards, then having the editors reverse the recording to make it sound demonic and unholy.
Ooh, so it's reversed forward.
It's reversed, then reversed again. Or he said it, he spoke it in reverse, and then
that's
they
what I'm saying. So reversed makes it forward. That's
Woo!
Interesting.
So cool.
Real quick, there was a really fun bit that the previous fact reminded me of about the horse. There's a meme out there where Liam Neeson said that a horse recognized him from a previous movie, and then someone just did the meme where it says, like, Liam Neeson walks on set, horse, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah, like, finally, Liam's here.
Party can start now.
Yeah.
Break out the Doritos. The Hobbit 3 was There and Back Again, or excuse me, The Battle of the Five Armies. There and Back Again was the original title. Holy cow, I got mixed up there. Whoa.
Garrett has so much vaulted knowledge that he just pulled I've never heard that title of this movie.
I've banked all my knowledge and lost all my social skills. The Hobbit 3 was The Battle of the Five Armies, not There and Back Again. When the movie was promoted with a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, several fans camped outside the hall the day before the panel in order to get seats. In the middle of the night, the fans were woken up by cast members Lee Pace and Andy Serkis, who greeted the waiting fans and delivered autographs and photos for hours. In the end, Pace ended up passing out from exhaustion and shared a mattress with a fan. Gotta love it. Next up was our Halloween episode. We did Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is just such a ridiculously fun, campy movie.
Yeah, very fun.
I don't care what anyone says. The $2 million budget went primarily on production costs. The clowns and visual effects were created almost entirely by the filmmakers at very little cost.
See that? That fits.
Nice little indie production there.
Yeah.
Next up was Planet of the Apes, directed by Tim Burton. Mark Wahlberg joined the film after meeting with Tim Burton for only 5 minutes. He was so anxious to work with Burton that he agreed to play any part. Wahlberg dropped out of the role of Linus in Ocean's 11 to do this film.
Wow, okay.
Well, hey, Planet of the Apes suffered so we could get Ocean's 11. I'm happy with that. Inside Out is the next movie. We did that same episode.
Yep.
When Pete Docter and Jonas Rivera pitched the film to Mindy Kaling, she was moved to tears and said, "I think it's great that you guys are making a film that shows it's difficult to grow up and that it's okay to be sad about it." According to Pete Docter, they exclaimed, "Quick, write that down!"
Yeah. I still hold one of the best Pixar movies for sure, and they nailed it. I absolutely agree with that fun fact. They hit it out of the park.
All their movies that have to do with something emotional like that, Soul, Inside Out, those ones are always just the ones that hit me the hardest. And they do
Well, they
so
have
good
such
in
a
them.
unique way of making so that it hits kids and adults in different ways. Like, depending on when you watch it in your life, you watch it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible. Yeah, and really incredible talent.
Excuse me. I talk a lot and I start to yawn, so I apologize if that comes through on the
Okay,
mic.
we're about halfway through.
We're a little over halfway. Your Name was the next one we watched, the anime film from 2016, I believe.
The Interstellar-esque film.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with space, really, but
But
kind of close.
going back, yeah.
This is the first anime film not made by Studio Ghibli or Hayao Miyazaki to gross 10 billion yen at the Japanese box office, which is about $98 million. It was also the second highest grossing anime film of all time, before being surpassed by Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train in 2020, 4 years later.
Which I've heard is very good.
I believe Spirited Away is still the highest grossing. If it's not, then Demon Slayer took it over.
Yeah.
Next up, we did Star Wars. And there's 11 movies in this one, so let's go ahead and just get through them.
Speed through it. Here we go. Star Wars trivia starts now.
Starting right now, start the clocks. In Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, George Lucas was so sure this movie would flop that instead of attending the premiere, he went on vacation to Hawaii with his good friend Steven Spielberg, where they came up with the idea for Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark after they found out Star Wars became a success.
Oh, what a great thing to come back to after vacation.
I know, right? For Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, in order to avoid sharing creative rights, George Lucas decided to avoid using a major studio to finance this movie. Instead, he bankrolled the $18 million production himself, using a combination of his profits from the first movie and a bank loan. Although the movie was risky, it paid off several times over. Lucas recovered his investment within 3 months of the movie's release. He then showed gratitude far beyond the Hollywood norm by sharing the profits with his employees, nearly $5 million in bonuses.
Yeah, and I know that I believe Spielberg was also in on a percentage of that to help fund the second one, so I think he gets royalties off
Forever.
of Star Wars. Yeah, which is just insane. What an investment.
Next up was Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, this is actually a really, really cool fact. Nyan Nunb, Lando's co-pilot, the one with the vagina lips, speaks a Kenyan dialect called Haya. According to sound designer Ben Burt, the lines were delivered by Kipsang Rotik, a Kenyan student living in the US, and are actually correct Haiyan translations of the English text. Audiences in Kenya were reportedly very thrilled to hear their language spoken in proper context.
That is very cool.
It's so cool. I think it's the same with the Ewoks as well. They were also speaking an actual language like Mongolian or something like that.
Nice.
Phantom of the Opera. Phantom Menace. That's a very different Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
During filming, Ewan McGregor made lightsaber noises as he dueled. George Lucas explained many times that the sound effects would be added in by the special effects people later on. Ewan said, "I kept getting carried away."
Yeah, it's what
I
you
would too.
have to. Yeah.
Next was Attack of the Clones. Still the worst movie in the franchise. Don't at me. When Jango Fett gets into his ship after his fight with Obi-Wan, he bangs his head on the partially open door. This was intentional and is a reference to the famous goof from A New Hope where a stormtrooper accidentally bangs his head on the door.
Classic, yep.
Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. George Lucas allowed his friend Steven Spielberg to help design some sequences during pre-production. This was partly because Spielberg wanted the experience of using the pre-visualization techniques pioneered by Industrial Light and Magic, as he was going to use them for War of the Worlds. It was also because Lucas felt that his roles as writer, director, executive producer, and financier were taking up too much of his time, and he needed another director to bounce ideas off. Spielberg's main contribution was in the climactic lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Interesting.
So there we go. Next up, Episode 7, The Force Awakens, is the only time that Harrison Ford has received top billing in a Star Wars film, making him the first non-Jedi character to be credited first.
Wow, that's fun. And he didn't even want to do it.
Right? Next up is The Last Jedi. That's going to be an interesting conversation topic for years to come. Daisy Ridley took her father to the set in Ireland, where the ending scene of Force Awakens was about to be recreated. When her father met Mark Hamill, he asked him, "Who do you play then?" Ridley admitted later on that she was not sure if her father was joking.
Yeah, just genuine question. Oh, now who are you?
The whole reason this franchise exists in the first place. Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. On November 25th, 2019, it was reported that a script for this film was leaked on the internet. An actor, later revealed to be John Boyega by his own admission, had reportedly kept the script under the bed after changing apartments. After somebody was cleaning the place and found the script, the person attempted to sell it on eBay. Director J.J. Abrams confirmed that Disney and Lucasfilm bought the script back.
Wow.
So
I'm sure that was a hefty, not like, obviously it probably wasn't millions, but I'm sure it was not like $100.
Oh, it wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
Solo, a Star Wars story. Harrison Ford revealed that he has seen the movie, and he thinks it's phenomenal. But he skipped out on the premiere with the rest of the cast because he didn't want to steal Alden Ehrenreich's moment of glory.
Yeah, that's great. It definitely would have having Harrison Ford show up, so that's really good of him. He's a good guy.
Especially when you're just like, I don't want to make sure I'm doing this correct.
I also know that for the previous movie, The Rise of Skywalker, when people asked Harrison Ford why he came back, he said, "You would too if they gave you $30 million." Like, of course I'll show up for a minute on green screen.
I still remember there was an episode. I think it was before Episode 7 came out, where Harrison Ford went on Conan's talk show, and Conan was like, "I have $100 right here. Can you tell us something about the movie?" And Harrison just kind of looks around, and he takes the dollar bill, puts it in his pocket, and he says, "A long time ago," and then just puts and that's it. It's so good. Last up for Star Wars is Rogue One. Still probably the best movie that Disney has made.
Yep.
Rogue One, Anthony Daniels was jokingly disgruntled that Alan Tudyk was allowed to play K2SO in the relative comfort of a motion capture suit, whereas Daniels had to endure years of discomfort and injuries in the C-3PO costume. Daniels laughingly cursed at Tudyk after Rogue One's premiere, and Tudyk later said that a fuck you from Daniels was one of the highest compliments he'd ever received.
That's awesome.
I love Alan Tudyk. He's awesome. Next up was Oz the Great and Powerful. Oz gives his full name as Oscar Zoroaster, Phaedrig Isaac Norman Henkel Emmanuel Ambrose Diggs. That makes his initials Oz Pinhead. In the books, he explains that he didn't like the pinhead part, so he just went by Oz.
That's cool.
Couldn't have said that in the movie. Just
nope.
Dumbing it down.
Who you calling a pinhead?
SpongeBob! Yay! Next up was The Signal. One of, again, Adrian's favorite directors, William Eubank. Misdirection is a key ingredient in the film. The director wanted the viewer to continually feel that they nearly have a grip on where the film is going, only to have their notions fall apart when the direction changes again, all the way until the very end.
And it does.
It certainly does. Next up was Modern Times, our first Charlie Chaplin movie that we covered on the podcast. Hopefully first of many. Sir Charles Chaplin allows the tramp to speak on camera for the first time during the restaurant scene, but insisted that what the tramp says be universal. Therefore, the song the tramp sings is in gibberish, but it is possible to follow the story he tells by watching his hand gestures.
Yep, he did the same thing that everyone he showed he didn't tell. He sung with his hands.
Exactly. And it was all just gibberish, so anyone in any language could watch it.
Yeah, very talented.
Next up is one of the worst movies we've ever watched in the entire show ever, and that was our Christmas episode, Deck the Halls.
Yeah.
Take a moment to say a rest in peace for our collective minds after watching that movie. According to gossip, we're doing hearsay now.
Okay.
The main actors were unhappy on set. Kristen Chenoweth was still coping with her split from Aaron Sorkin. Danny DeVito flew in to film his scenes rather than interact with anyone. And Matthew Broderick could be found on set shaking his head in disbelief, repeatedly stating, "I have hit rock bottom."
Oh my gosh.
Kristen Davis told her that, and then regarding to Kristen Chenoweth, I guess someone else told her that she should have her eggs frozen. Okay.
First part of that is crazy that nobody wanted to make this movie.
Right? And while watching it, you could tell. Next up was New Year's Eve, which was that was something. The groom at the beginning of the film is played by an new kid on the block, Joey McIntyre. In the gag reel, Sam, played by Josh Duhamel, jokes that now you guys are married, I expect to see some new kids on the block. Joey then turns to look at the camera and asks if they're allowed to say that.
That's fun.
Well, I wish the movie was. Poseidon. Poseidon is still my favorite episode of our show.
Is it because I gave Best Actor to a boat?
That, and then the super badass way to kill yourself that I thought about with I'm Ghost Rider. With
Oh, yeah.
Gun. Oh, so good. And the thumbnail. I mean, come on.
It is a good one.
I think we actually went over this on the podcast. There was only 1 day of exterior filming done on the entire shoot. It was to get footage of Josh Lucas jogging that was eventually composited into the opening CG shot of the ship.
Yep.
Which is kind of sad that it's all filmed inside, but it makes sense.
I mean, it's underwater. What else do you want to do?
This next one gives me hope for the world. We did Land of the Lost, which was our first Phone a Friend. Ron Harper, who portrayed Jack Marshall, Rick's brother, in the third and last season of Land of the Lost back in the 70s, was invited to shoot a cameo in this movie. He declined because, in his own words, "See, I just have this problem with dinosaur urine jokes."
That's like the worst part of the whole thing.
That's where I draw the line. Next was The Dark Crystal, which is a movie I put forward for that double feature. Jim Henson's plan with this movie was to get back to the darkness of original Brothers Grimm fairy tales. He felt that children liked the idea of being scared, and that this was a healthy emotion for them for which to deal.
Okay.
So, makes sense. It was a little bit of a darker film.
Yeah, definitely.
The Objective. That was a thing. The IR camera that Ben uses has the same settings, day or night, whenever and wherever it was used, because the on-loan IR camera was dropped and broke during the filming. The IR footage was created using video effects to resemble actual IR camera footage, according to the director.
Yeah, and the other fun fact that I talked about during that episode is that it was all filmed during the day.
Yeah.
They didn't have any actual night vision, and it's just tinted.
Well, they did, and they dropped it and broke it.
Yeah, so it changed the entire film.
So next up was Valentine's Day, which was a movie. Julia
You've
Roberts
said the same thing for the past, 6 movies.
We went through a low period, okay? Julia Roberts was paid $11,952 for each word she says in the film. 251 words in return for, reportedly, a $3 million paycheck.
Wow.
I wish I could get that.
Smart. You'd be a billionaire off this episode alone.
I don't. I wish. Jumanji was the next franchise we did. In the original film, during a guest appearance on Clive Anderson All Talk, a UK radio chat show, I guess, Robin Williams told a story about filming the scene where Alan wrestles a crocodile. He said that in one take, he got a little carried away and thumped the crocodile with his elbow, forgetting that there was a man inside the suit. He heard a voice inside the crocodile yell, "Hey!"
That's fun.
Gotta love it. Zathura was next up. Kristen Stewart admitted she was disturbed to see the life-size replica made of her for the scenes in which Lisa is frozen. Not long after, several men reportedly offered to buy the replica, which creeped her out even more when she found out.
Oh, wow. People are weird.
Yeah, and I think she was under 18 at that point, too, which is even weirder.
I think so, yeah.
Next up was Welcome to the Jungle. If Dwayne Johnson could play any other role in the film, he'd play Jack Black's character, Bethany. Johnson said, "I know how much fun Jack had every day playing a 16-year-old self-obsessed girl."
Aw,
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
With Dwayne Johnson. For the follow-up, the next level, it saw one of the fastest turnarounds from filming to theatrical release for a major studio film. Filming did not begin until February 2019 and wrapped 4 months later in May for a December release only 7 months later. Most films complete filming nearly a year before their release.
Oh, so it's about 4 months ahead of schedule, 5 months, half a year, basically faster.
Well, I think it's just they wanted a really quick
Yeah.
movie release. Next up was The Relic, a kind of a forgotten creature feature. Because the novel portrayed the museum's administration in an unflattering light, they turned... Oh, I missed part of a note here. There was a museum that they wanted to film in, so they were trying to get the rights to film there. But since the administration was portrayed in an unflattering light, they turned the film's producers down. Paramount Pictures offered the museum a 7-figure sum of money to film there, but the administration was worried that the monster movie would scare kids away from the museum. The producers were faced with a problem, as only museums in Chicago and Washington, D.C. resembled the ones in New York. The Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago loved the premise and allowed them to shoot there.
Oh.
And then they lost all their kid audience, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. For Avatar, one of the biggest movies of all time, sequel's actually looking pretty decent. Hopefully it'll be good. At the time of auditioning, Sam Worthington was living in his car.
Wow. There's so many stories like that about Hollywood. We've talked about it before, where people literally have nothing and then make it big.
Well, Sam Worthington's never really made it big, but... Well.
This is a pretty nice paycheck. I mean, he's attached to 5 major revenue-grossing films.
Well, now, yeah. We'll see. I'm sure there's a lot of contract negotiation about percentages gained from performance of the film. Next up was Driving Miss Daisy, which was another Phone a Friend. So convinced was she that she would lose out. Again, my notes are all kind of weird and messed up here. Let's see. So Jessica Tandy, who played Miss Daisy, had a bet with her agent that she wouldn't win the Oscar for Best Actress. She was so set on the fact that she would lose.
On it, yeah.
When she paid up on Oscar night, she told him it was the best bet she'd ever lost.
Oh, that's a fun
one. Next up was the number 23, which I love that episode too. When you're like, I'm the only person that thinks this movie is good.
I learned a lot about myself.
Do you know Walter Sparrow, the main character? Also Fingerling, played by Jim Carrey. You know who initially was offered the role?
No?
Robert De Niro.
Ooh.
Would have been a much different movie.
Much, much different. Interesting.
Next up was Bullet, which is in that same episode. Bullet's reverse burnout during the chase scene actually wasn't in the script. Steve McQueen had mistakenly missed the turn. The footage was still kept, though.
Oh, that's fun.
Again, another mistake that's so good it's left in.
A fun fact about that that thumbnail also is that it's Jim Carrey writing on the wall, and I actually matched the font and wrote Bullet on the wall of that thumbnail.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
You'll have to go back and look at it. Maybe watch the episode again, get our views up. Next up was The Last Witch Hunter. Vin Diesel, this is no big shock to me, and I think you know this too, but Vin Diesel had been a Dungeons & Dragons player for many years, and this is a cool twist, he actually taught Dame Judi Dench how to play on the set of The Chronicles of Riddick in 2004. The main character in this movie was partly based on his old D&D character Melkor, who was a witch hunter. He used one of the third-party Dungeons & Dragons books to create the character class, as he loved being the ranger type, but also liked to use a few spells too.
Yeah.
So that may be our most...
Basically every Skyrim playthrough ever.
Yeah. Another niche joke. Next up was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Genesis all contributed to this movie's budget. Funds earned by Pink Floyd's album The Dark Side of the Moon went towards funding this movie. The bands were such fans of the show that they would regularly halt recording sessions just to watch Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Aww, that's cool.
Gotta love it. We're getting towards the end here. Shaun of the Dead, as a part of the Cornetto trilogy. When asked by an interviewer why they chose to have slow-moving zombies instead of running ones, Simon Pegg simply replied, "Because death is not an energy drink." A good point. Zombies don't run. Hot Fuzz, second movie in the franchise. The first draft of the script included a love interest for Nicholas Angel named Victoria. She was cut from subsequent drafts, but a good amount of her dialogue was given to Danny, often without any changes.
How fun.
The lover ended up being a friend. For The World's End, which is the last movie in that franchise, the bartenders of the first two bars are, by complete coincidence, real-life cousins Teddy Kempner and Mark Kempner, who hadn't seen each other in years until they were reunited at the audition, according to the director.
That is cool. What a small world.
So it wasn't the same actor. It's two completely different people. Next up, we actually touched on this during the episode, but it was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Since the movie was being made by Disney's Touchstone Pictures, Warner Brothers would only allow use of their biggest cartoon stars, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, if they got as much screen time as Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. For that reason, they were always in pairs, such as the piano battle between Daffy and Donald at the parachute, and the parachute scene with Bugs and Mickey. This was continued with Porky Pig and Tinkerbell at the end of the movie.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely you can tell. It's huge moments that are iconic, but equal amount shared for sure.
Exactly. It's like one of those things that can make sense when you think about it, because it's like, you're our competitor, we want to have the same time.
Absolutely.
Next up was Rush, the F1 racing movie, not too long ago. Daniel Bruhl and Niki Lauda, Daniel Bruhl played Niki Lauda in the film, became good friends. Lauda even flew the actor to the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in his private jet, which he piloted himself.
Very cool.
Hey, nice to meet people and play them, I guess.
Yeah.
Free trip to Sao Paulo in a private jet. Next up is Sunset Boulevard, which is the same episode. When Gloria Swanson finished Norma's final scene, the mad staircase descent, she burst into tears and the crew applauded. Even though it wasn't the last scene filmed, Billy Wilder threw a party for her as soon as the shot was finished.
Wow. That's
kinda
cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of the most recognizable shots from the movie.
Yeah.
And you got a party. I love it. Lastly, last one here. Episode 99, we did Body Heat, the erotic thriller. It was the first of 3 historically significant but unrelated adult thriller movies in an unofficial Hollywood trilogy of erotic suspense films, each with a 2-word title made within 6 years. The films are Body Heat, Fatal Attraction, and Basic Instinct.
Oh, I guess I would associate all 3 of those kind of in the same vein. Interesting.
Erotic thriller.
Yeah.
And with that, we've gone through 100 episodes worth of movies.
There it is.
Oh, man. I'm not talking for the rest of the night. My throat hurts.
Drink some water.
Adrian, if anyone wants to follow us online, where can they do so?
The Drive Back Podcast. Now, if you want to watch us go through these and see us look at each other while we speak, we're here on YouTube at the Drive Back Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell. We post every Monday on all platforms, but we post extra here on YouTube, things like tier lists, and we have a lot of content planned as well. We're going to be doing some things that we call play-by-plays, which are where we watch the movie with you. So we're going to have some of those coming out. And then anywhere else, if you want to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want, it's the Drive Back Podcast. 5-star reviews really help us out, and we love to see them. And then on Instagram, where I've been saying it for a couple episodes, I've got content planned. It's not there yet, but if you want to chat with us, our DMs are always open. If you have suggestions or anything that you want to tell us, go ahead and let us know over there.
That is absolutely right. We look forward to all the content we make here on the channel. So definitely give us some ideas. If there's anything you guys want to see, let us know. Next week, we're going to have a show and tell. Adrian is having me watch Bridge to Terabithia, which I've heard is going to emotionally destroy me by everyone who we've talked to.
Yeah, I don't know, though. I feel like you have a lack of nostalgia when it comes to critiquing things, so I don't know if you'll like it that much.
I also have a lack of empathy towards children, so I think this is going to be interesting to discuss. But then I also recommended the film The Death of Stalin, a political black comedy.
And the official sequel to Bridge to Terabithia.
Actually, yeah. They're interconnected. Real Cold War thriller stuff. But that's going to bring us to an end. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We love you so much. We'll see you next time back here on The Drive Back. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.